What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Beat the Maze. It's EMB.
It's your girl, Jaysha.
And we have a special guest for y'all. We have Emani. How you doing, Emani?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good.
So something we like to do when we start all of our episodes, kind of go around the circle and talk about how our week has been, how we've been, any new things, just things you want to talk about. So, Ian, you want to start?
Sure. My week was long. To be honest, it was very long. It's been a lot of personal stuff going on. Just a lot of change as the seasons move. I had to do a couple things with my mom's house in Philly, and so that was really, really long. And just traveling back and forth. I drive up the coast, so it's been a long week, but I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be back on the podcast doing what we love. So, Jay, how are you?
I feel like my week has also been really long. You being gone, I'm here by myself, so the week went by very, very, very long. But work's cool. So I've been getting a lot of things in order. So it's been a very productive week, I'll say, but it was definitely a long week. And you, Imani?
What's up?
It's been a fast moving week. So mine's been the opposite. Like there's been just so much going on that this week has been super fast paced. I don't remember to start off the week. What was I doing? Oh,
You had one of those types.
it was a really fast moving week. I started off my week. One of my girls here that does yoga, she did a partnership class with this Black owned woman skincare line. Mm-hmm. So she invited me. I'm wearing the product right now, so just watch skin real clear.
Hey.
But so she had a class on Monday that I went to, so that was super great. So I started off the week doing some yoga. I have some really exciting projects that I'm doing that has taken up my whole week. So this week has just moved by super quick. But super good. It's been a good week.
That's good. Great. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Oh, for our audience listeners who are not familiar with you mind just introducing yourself a little bit more, telling us who you are, what you do?
Yes, I'm gonna open my windows. But yes, my name is Emani Figaro. I am 23 years old. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. Based in Chicago, Illinois. I am a creative cultural strategist, which basically means that for creatives, I bring the strategy business side to those big ideas and help them break them down into more tangible steps. So your big ideas don't seem that big and you can strategize them out. And I help out with different marketing activations and cultural strategy on the ideas of, from a marketing perspective, bringing in cultural trends from our generation, just cultural trends that are happening, and finding ways to integrate those into different companies and different businesses that are happening. So that's what I do. I love to travel. Mm-hmm. So I am currently, that's what I'm about to be doing today, is working on getting my GoFundMe together and working on pushing back out my scholarship that I want to do this year. Last year, I also do travel consulting. So I do Mogul Money, which is travel consulting. I love to travel. I've been working a lot this year, so I haven't been able to travel as much as I typically want, besides for work. But last year I did a $500 scholarship to give really anybody that is a part of the BIPOC community a chance to be able to see the world, and trying to alleviate some of the pressures of traveling, which are really cost. It costs a lot to get your plane ticket. It costs a lot to pay for baggage. It costs a lot to pay for accommodations. So trying to give them $500 to kind of alleviate that. This year I want to pay for a full round trip ticket to Africa.
Wow.
Which is about 2 racks. So that's why I'm I need to start pushing out the fundraising stuff, because that's a lot of money, but I really want to be able to give somebody that chance before I even get to go, because I know I won't be able to this year because of all the work that I'm doing. But I want to be able to give somebody the chance to go to Africa. Our last recipient, she went to Ghana. And so this year I want to actually send someone directly there. So that's what I do. I went to Spelman. Right. I went to Spelman, graduated in 2021. Jaguar for life. Have on blue right now. Love Spelman.
Spelman Y'all really rock that Spelman blue.
It's like a cult. I really am here until I die.
All day, all day,
Blue
all
on the
day.
chain, like I don't play. It's a way of life.
I like subtlety.
It's a subtlety because it's really a way of life. Like, you know how the deltas be having a little chain. It's real subtle, but the people that know that you're a part of the community. And so Spelman played a huge part into my stuff. I just did a shoe for Nike for Spelman. My concept was basically based on legacy of HBCUs and the importance of legacy in the Black community and how that infiltrates into fashion, especially through passing down and vintage passing down of like your mom's favorite like Fendi bag, and now like the legacy of being able to have like your mom's Fendi bag is so important. So legacy doesn't just tie in a historical educational perspective, it also ties into fashion. So work with Nike this year to create a shoe for Spelman. I'm shooting the photo stuff on Friday in Atlanta, so I'm coming down to Atlanta actually on Thursday to shoot the stuff, which is super exciting. And I can't wait to like share the campaign with like my AUC family.
That's fire.
So let's go all the way back. Let's go
because you dropped a lot.
Let's
you dropped a lot. We're gonna have to break it down.
Let's go to you attending our beautiful alma mater. How did you get there from Chicago? Those are two different parts of the East Coast, a lot of miles in between.
Yeah, so Spelman's a crazy story. Spelman's all manifestation. If I think about my life, a lot of it has been manifestation without me knowing it. Like I'll just be saying crazy stuff that seems like unattainable, and then like they happen, and I'm like, whoa, that was actually a manifestation. And Spelman was the same way. I knew I wanted to go to an HBCU. My sophomore year in high school, they were like, we want you guys to just research some colleges, because they were trying to get us in this perspective of like, you gotta, you're gonna go to college, where you want to go, why you want to go there. And I was only looking up HBCUs. At first I was looking up Hampton, and I was like, I don't like it, nothing to my HU family, but it just wasn't for me. And then I was like, okay, Spelman, never seen Spelman, had never been there, just fell in love with it. My aunt and my cousin lived in Atlanta, and my cousin still lives in Atlanta at this time, but I was like, okay, I gotta go see it. So I went down there, fell in love with it. My mother wanted me to go to PWI so bad. Like she wanted me to apply to the Harvards and the Georgetowns and the Yales and just Northwesterns, and it wasn't fitting with me. I was like, that's just not what environment I want to be in. I want to be in a Black environment. And I really didn't have that much support on that end, because she wanted me to go someplace else, but I knew in my heart that I wanted to be at an HBCU. Didn't have the funds, so figured I want to go to Spelman. Now money's a problem. Didn't know how I was going to pay for Spelman, but I kept telling everybody that I met that I was going to go to Spelman. And my mom was just like, don't be saying that. And you ain't got the funds to go to Spelman yet. Like,
be realistic type.
Like, be realistic. But I kept saying like, nah, I'm going to go to Spelman. And that's just that. Don't know how. Just saying it. Literally just, I kept saying it. Like, I'm going to go to Spelman. I'm going to go to Spelman. I started seeing people get the Bonner Scholarship. And that was something I applied for, because I'm really involved in community service. That's actually my main job now. I work at Deloitte, and I do consulting for nonprofits. So my whole love is like community and serving and giving back. And so that's how I ended up even getting to Spelman, was really my love for giving back and my love for community. That's how I was able to even pay to get to Spelman, was my history in community service, because I was doing that in high school. So when I found out about the Bonner Scholarship, I was like, okay, this is perfect for me, because like this is going to pay for my school. I'll get a stipend, and I'll be able to do something I already love, which is community service. I started to see hella people in my class get into the Bonner program, and I was like, you feel me? I don't got it. I didn't get it. I'm devastated. I don't know how I'm gonna pay for Spelman. Everybody else is getting it. I just didn't get it. It's over with. And I remember like I had a really hard day. It was like my last AP bio trip. They do this huge trip. I locked my keys in my trunk of my car. It's a day of home. It's a day of prom. I gotta get my hair done. My mama got to come to the AB bio trip to get the cars out the trunk, because she got the extra care. We about an hour and a half away. I'm having a horrible day. I'm in the car crying because everything's going bad. Like I'm late for my appointment. Everything's going bad. And she's like, the Bonner program called. And because she knew I was talking about like I didn't get it, so she called them and I didn't know. And they were like, oh, Emani didn't get her letter. Like, she is a Bonner Scholar. And we got home literally that day. We looked in the mail and all my tuition covered.
That's beautiful.
Literally manifestation.
I would have cried. I would have broke down in tears.
I did. But I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying. Like, I've been manifesting for a long time in my life, not knowing. just by speaking and like really believing that before I could actually see it. And so that's how I got to Spelman. I was a Bonner Scholar for all 4 years. I was able to do some incredible work and start like financial literacy programs at Spelman through the Bonner program. But definitely like Spelman is the reason I am the way I am today. Like my love for the Black community, my love for Black culture has always been there because my dad's an immigrant. And so he's from Trinidad. So like I always loved Black people. And I was always like pro-Black, but going to Spelman kind of cultivated like a different understanding that like, you know, Black people aren't monolithic and we're multifaceted and we're diverse. And there's Black people that love anime and K-pop, but there's also Black folks that love like hip hop and R&B. And like, we're so diverse, even in like our one facet that you can see at Spelman, like, and then we have differences and inequalities even within our own race that kind of separate us. And you just kind of learn just how diverse and complex like your own people are, which gives you another sense of appreciation. But also Spelman brought me to like some of the best, like my Spelman sisters, like I was able to reach out to them and be like, hey, I'm doing a photo shoot, can you help me? And them being like, girl, what do you need? Like them being on me when I'm waiting on the shoots to come in, like they're texting me like, hey, what's the updates on this? Like they really want to be a part of it. And I think that's the beauty of a Spelman was like, it taught me real sisterhood. Like I have 4 siblings, but I'm the youngest and I was raised the only child. So I never really had sisters around me. And so when they talk about Spelman, like you never really understand sisterhood really until you leave. And everybody says that, but it's like the true definition of you don't know. Like they should call me up. Like this is my Spelman sister. Like, and as soon as she said it, I was like, girl, I don't even know what you really got going on, but I'm here to like support you and whatever you're doing because you're my Spelman sister. And like that's the whole point of like us going to Spelman is like whenever you hit me up and I can help in any type of way I am. Because that's what like we're supposed to be doing. So that's a long answer, but Spelman definitely changed my life.
I completely agree. I think I emphasize a similar story of Spelman in the sense of you get into this environment, you realize like people in general, especially Black people, are so wide and so like diverse on like the diaspora spectrum. Like there's anyone from anywhere doing anything. And it really makes you appreciate your own unique nuances, the things that make you like you. So one of those nuances is that you're into this creative culture strategy. How did you get there? Did you always know that you wanted to be in like the creative field? Because there's a like that guys, for you guys listening and watching, there's a long list of things she's done that are just are crazy. And we're gonna get through them. We're gonna get through them. But how did you get into this consulting space? Because I myself, I'm a consultant. I'm not a strategist, but I'm a consultant at work. And like I know for me, I didn't know anything about it before graduating. And so now you're a strategist for the creative community. How does that work?
God again, like really, like I'm a real spiritual person and everything really be, I believe me listening to God and he just like navigates me along that path. Like I said, God put Spelman on my heart and I just needed to believe in it and he brought the way, you feel me? It's really be those simple things of, I never thought I was a creative because I couldn't create physically. Like I can't play an instrument. I can't sing. I can't dance for real. And so I always envisioned a creative as somebody that had to create something that I didn't kind of appreciate. That creativity is also mental. It's ideas. It's being able to formulate those ideas. So I was always in creative spaces when I was in Chicago. Like my best friend did Shy Gala here. And I didn't know him back then, but we ended up becoming friends later. And I was just telling him literally yesterday, like I was always a part of the creative community of Chicago. I just never considered myself a creative. I was always in those spaces, but like because I couldn't do the things that I was seeing, I was like, I'm not one. But I always had
experiencing it. I say you're just here kind of experiencing almost, but you're not,
you know, contributing really. And I didn't know how I could contribute. I was just really there to experience, which is also fine because I had appreciation for culture. That's always something I had, was appreciation for culture and art. And so when it came to consulting, I just wanted to travel. Like I knew I loved to travel. And so my cousin was a consultant and she just said that job allowed her to travel all the time. And I was like, I don't know what consulting is, but it's allowing her to go to Poland. Sorry, I've been listening to Walk to Poland too much.
I don't know why.
So Poland. It's like it's stuck in my head rent free.
That's a banger.
It's a banger.
That's
It's
a
like a
banger.
spiritual. But I just wanted to travel, and so once again, like I feel like God just be presenting doors for you, and you just gotta jump at them. So like my sophomore year, I was an econ major at Spelman with a Spanish minor. Love Dr. Holmes. Shout out to Dr. Holmes, favorite person in this world. She was the department chair of the econ department at Spelman. And she nominated like the top performers in her class to interview for Deloitte. No clue what Deloitte was. I was like, okay. They had an International Women's Day. I'm like, all right, you feel me? Whatever opportunities, especially when you're like a freshman and sophomore, you're just jumping at them because you really don't know what you really want to do.
Right.
So you really just like trying anything. So I did there. I became a summer scholar at Deloitte. So my junior year internship was there. And then my senior year, I got an offer and I started there. And I remember, and this is another thing that going into Deloitte, I was also going in with this notion of I don't want to change myself. Like I got short hair and I got piercings. Is y'all gonna rock with me or not? And also I knew I wanted to be in a more creative space because I was like, I don't want to be dressing in, oh my gosh, that's a cute car. I don't want to be dressing in suits and ties and skirts all day. That's just not me. So like I need to find a space at Deloitte that is for me. Spelman's sister, I told her that, and she graduated 2 years ahead of us, but she worked at Deloitte, come on Spelman Sisters, and she was like, look, there's a creative side of Deloitte. Had no idea. And she was like, I got a project there I think you would be great for, which was HBCUV, which the client was UNCF. And I was like, that sounds right up my alley. She connected me with the manager who was in the project. He staffed me on the project. I've been on the project for a year. And when I even started at Deloitte, so last year, so after the pandemic, after having all that time in the house, I just was like, I'm just gonna start doing things. So I started doing crafting and kind of formulate my own photo shoots. Started trying to think about that, just trying to do whatever creativity kind of flowed through me. Didn't know what creative consulting was. I found out about it last year when I was in New Orleans. I was in New Orleans. I was on a trip with one of my close friends, and we were watching Runaway by Kanye. And in the credits, Virgil Abloh was his creative consultant. Never heard of creative consultant in my life, but I was like, Virgil Abloh's a designer. What's a creative consultant? Looked it up, and I was like, this seems like something I can get into. So at the beginning of this year, I was like, okay, I believe in like, sometimes people be saying like, don't title yourself that, like have people title you it. But sometimes I feel like it's important for you to kind of state what you are so you can become it. So I was like, I'm a creative strategist. And I put it in my bio and I was like, that's me. I'm a creative consultant. I'm a creative consultant. I'm a creative consultant. Now I've started to see creative consultant and creative strategist too much on my timeline. That's why I switched to cultural, because I was like, I don't remember. All of y'all wasn't given creative consultant at the beginning of the year. I got to change my title again because it's given what I thought was niche isn't niche no more. Y'all jumping on, let me change it. But when I did creative consulting, it was this idea of like, I didn't want to be boxed in.
Right.
And I didn't want to like say that I only worked on these type of projects and this type of project. I wanted to just help on all creative projects because I felt like I could. And I had an interest in all of them. And really, strategy can be applied to anything. It's just figuring out how to solve a problem. So I was like, I can apply that to any area. So I was like, I don't want to label myself a certain strategist. I'm just a creative strategist. So anything creative. So I just named myself that. And so then once I named myself that, I started to find myself getting opportunities that were within that space. So last year, my first kind of independent consulting endeavor was helping a photography studio in Chicago. And I literally just met the guy at Upscale and I was like, hey, I do creative consulting. I was in a photo shoot at his space and I just ended up talking to him. And literally, I think another important thing is to promote yourself. Like I was just like, this is what I do. You're doing something, like, how can I help?
Right.
And I think another important part was that I didn't go into it trying to be paid. I think a lot of times people skip over the part of being a servant and a student, and they skip straight to the one to be a paid part, where sometimes you're supposed to be serving people.
Right.
And I think that sometimes people skip over that serving people part, where
Right.
sometimes you're not getting paid. You could have a job that's paying you, but sometimes you really are just serving people to gain that experience.
Yeah.
And you're just grateful for people allowing you a chance.
Yeah.
So it started there, and then this year, again, really all this stuff be God and the people around me, because then this year, my best friend was working at Bronzeville Winery, which is a Black-owned women's winery in Chicago. And his boss was like, I love you. You feel me? I want the female version of you. And he's like, well, that's great because I have a best friend.
I have one.
I have a female version of me.
That's fire.
Which is me. And literally my best friend threw me the position. She wanted me to come in and do finance. I had an econ background. So, and this was literally listening to God. I knew I don't like numbers. I knew I wasn't good at numbers. I don't like them. I don't want to do them. But God told me to just show up.
Yeah.
And to get my best. And sometimes that's all you need to do is show up and he'll lead the rest of the way. So I showed up, I did that job, but also I was also giving her ideas around things that I was good at, which was marketing and branding.
Right.
And so after a while, she just saw that I sucked at numbers, but hold on, she's good at marketing and branding, and she has some really great ideas.
Right.
So I was able to get into a role over there within marketing and branding by really just kind of showing up and just playing my role. And I think that's another key part is like sometimes God just wants you to show up and he gonna lead the rest. He ain't asking you to figure out how you're gonna get there. He just wants you to show up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just gotta say yes to the stuff, and because you don't know how it's gonna go. And I think like, especially when I've seen entrepreneurship blown up in the last couple of years, everybody's like, and I fell into the trap myself, like, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I have this end goal, but it's 4 steps. I don't know what these 4 steps are gonna be. I don't know how I'm gonna get there. And it's like, yo, just
take the first step.
Just go. All you gotta do is go and get there and show up.
Your steps will align themselves.
You gotta figure it out. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's really a day-by-day, step-by-step thing. Like that's how I really got into this creative stuff. And then it's like the connections I had built, like with the creative studio, he started to expand. So he was like, I want to do film production. So then I started to be able to help on video shoots, and I was helping craft video stuff. And then he was like, I want to take on artists. So now I'm doing marketing strategies for actually A&R purposes. So it was like wherever people said they needed help, I just took that opportunity to try to figure it out.
Right.
Because like they said that, and I guess also it was just this notion of like, I guess when people bring me opportunities, I feel like they see that I can do it. So it's like, why not try?
That's a great
one. So
one.
I jumped into that, and like I said, even the creative stuff, like I never thought I would be designing a shoe. I never considered myself a designer. Like, and the crazy thing is I had history in that. Like I made my dress for prom. That was one of my key things, was that like I wanted to make my dress for prom, and it was fine.
Right.
Loved her, but I didn't think like, oh, I'm a designer because I did it that one time. And so when the shoe came, it was just a visual storytelling class, and I just took it because I was like, oh snap, like I have a client that's just is about to start doing film production. I need to learn about visual storytelling so I could be more up. You feel me? Just trying to better your skills, which turned into me creating a shoe.
Yeah, that's fire.
So how did you, I know that you said that you got into the visual storytelling space through that event. How did you begin working with Nike and like coming up with this shoe design, which is fire, and these just different, like I know you worked with Nike Yard Runners and things of that nature. How did those come about?
Taking a chance, not being, I think people also get afraid of doing stuff on their own. So when I saw the Nike school stuff, I had no idea it was their inaugural program. I had no idea what was going on. I was just like, this is just a cool class I think I should take. And it was directed, the master class was kind of hosted by Cole Bennett, who's over Lyrical Lemonade in Chicago. Lyrical Lemonade is huge, and they direct all the videos for like rappers and stuff like that. So I was like, this is the perfect person to kind of take this class from if I'm trying to, learn about visual storytelling, because he's killing it in the game right now. If I'm going to go learn, I need to learn from the best in what they're doing. So I was like, cool, let me go take this course. Showed up there, all signups were filled.
So you hadn't signed up when you showed up. You just kind of
when I showed up, all spots was still booths. Oh, wow. for the people that they were choosing to be in it. But so I went downtown and I was just like, I met this Black girl there that worked at Nike, and I was like, listen, I'm trying to get in this class, girl. I was like, all things is show and still, but like, I'm trying to get in this class. And she was like, follow the Instagram page, just stay up to date. So I mean, when I tell you, I used to set alarms on my phone to see when they were going to drop, because they had open registration outside of like the people they invited. So I was literally setting alarms on my phone to see when open registration for the public would be there. I missed the first class because I missed the sign up. But the last two classes, I mean, I was there. I mean, and that's another thing, like, I wanted to be in this space so bad. So like when I came there, it wasn't given. If they told me to watch the video the day before, I was doing all that homework the day before, showing up prepared every single time. People in there just making their mood boards. I'm coming there with my mood board together, whole treatment done.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not coming to play because I wanted to really be there. I'm coming to learn. I don't know what's to come out of this. I just know that I'm here to like learn a skill for myself. So I'm coming here and I'm giving my all off rip. So at the end of the sessions, the third week, they wanted us to get up and present our concept, and they were going to record it, and there was going to be a capstone project. And I was like, okay. So I'm sitting there, and the guy next to me, he's like, I think you should present yours. I wasn't even trying to get up there and present mine, but I'm like, this dude done told me that I should present it. So let me just go up there and do it. So I presented it. I applied for the capstone project, got accepted. And then from there, it was 6 groups, and we got the assignment of making an Air Max for Gen Z women to reconnect the Gen Z population to the Air Max 90. Okay. And my concept that I had pitched during the session was already about legacy. And that was like in April. Okay. I was like, because the storytelling class was pick your favorite Nike shoe, create a visual treatment for it. I ended up finding this shoe that was worn at the Wimbledon that was Spellman blue and white. And I was like, I'm going to use this shoe for my visual storytelling. And the story that I had created was literally around legacy and generational, like handed down. I had a Spellman girl, and it was all inspired by a girl that I knew from Chicago that went to Spellman. That was a year below me. Her name is Cameron. And we had went to China together when I did Urban League when I was like 16. And when I went to Spellman, like we just had stayed in contact, like really one of like my little sisters. And I was like thinking about this. She did tennis, so that immediately came to my mind when I saw the tennis shoe. I was like, I know a Black girl from Chicago who this is literally a story of. Right. And both her parents went to Morehouse and Spellman. So when I was writing out the treatment, it was literally this idea of this Black girl coming home for break. Her and her parents are looking over the yearbook. She sees these fire shoes. She falls in love with them, doesn't know her parents still has them. And then she graduates. Her parents went to Morehouse and Spellman. And at the graduation dinner, her parents gift her the shoes. And it was this whole idea of like legacy, handing down, and really tying in that importance of that within HBCUs. So I already had that concept before Capstone started. So when they said it was women Gen Z needing to reconnect them with the Air Max 90, I'm like, shoot, I already got the concept. We just need to build this
all into place.
This is all falling into place. So from the Capstone project, I didn't need to change my concept. My partner was a photographer, so he was really giving me like the kind of visual references to execute the idea. Right. But we made the shoe, and the shoe is inspired from the Wimbledon one that we saw. So the shoe legacy is Spellman colored. It's blue. We kept the gum sole to kind of replicate like the tennis aspect. So really tying in back into the tennis with the gum sole to look like a tennis court. The Spellman blue colors, and then also the different kind of textures on the shoe for that real vintage look. So some is like suede and some is like leather. So it can age really well. So we put a lot of intentionality into the shoe. That's how we got there. And so ended up not. So somebody in my class was like, okay, Nike's already doing something with HBCUs. I just didn't know what. But I presented the shoe, presented the concept I wanted to do. And this is kind of like a sneak peek into the campaign. But the campaign is going to be yearbook style. So it's literally going to be like a yearbook, taking images and redoing images from like when you take a team style photo, but instead of having a team, making the team a family. And the person in the middle that would typically have the ball, they would have the shoe. So shooting really images of like yearbooks, but replicating them into like HBCUs and like really that history. So I'm partnering with Austin, who went to Morehouse, that did the homecoming collection that just dropped.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying
he's
to get my
getting the
hands on that
clothes.
filming sweater
Shout
so
out to Homie
bad.
Wife.
Let me tell you, he's doing the merch for the shoot. I'm bringing the shoes. We're collabing together. Another AUC beautiful connection. So we about to shoot that on Friday and get them visuals out before homecoming.
That's beautiful.
Wow,
That's
that is
beautiful. That's
amazing.
truly like when I saw you posting about it, and I was like, dang, I would love to attend that. And I was like, I like it's just in Chicago. So speaking of that, you speak a lot about Chicago. You're a Chicago native, and you stay in Chicago and still choose to be in Chicago.
Hey, y'all go hard.
Yeah,
Chicago people
yes.
go hard.
So what is it that I guess the question isn't what connects you to Chicago, but most people like kind of, especially when they leave and they like kind of start their working life, they decide to live in different places, branch out. What keeps you at Chicago? What do you love about Chicago?
Being honest, I didn't want to stay here.
Mhm.
It was once again God, because I moved back here to my dad's sick, and so when I came back to Chicago, I was coming for family reasons at the beginning of the year, and I was coming because I also wanted to save up to buy a home. Very strict reasons for coming back. Knew that by the end of the summer I would have a certain amount of money saved up to buy my home. I wasn't trying to be here long. I knew that. And it's like every time I tried to move, or like I wanted to do something, or every time I tried to run away, God kept sitting me down. And it got to a point where I was like, let me stop trying to fight him and just like, you know,
You're trying to tell me, see what
and
you
just be, and just exist here right now and take advantage of, like, I kept being like, well, when I was here and if I was here, I would do this. And I was just like, let me stop making all these excuses. Like, I would be like, okay, like when I was in Atlanta, I had a farmer's market and it made me so happy. And I was saying all these different things. And it's like, well, why don't you make the best of where you are right now? It's not where you want to be, but it's where you're at. And that's just it. So instead of complaining and trying to fight God, why don't you try and like find the best here? Um, so it wasn't necessarily me wanting to be back here, but this is where I ended up. And I'm grateful because now all the projects that I'm working on, now I can see why God brought me here, because all the projects that I'm working on are truly for the community. I have like some sick projects that are happening for the city by Black people in the city that I'm able to help on. And I really get to like cultivate my community. And I guess coming from Chicago, like, yes, we would go hard for it, but there's a lot of like, there's not a lot of support, there's not a lot of love. So like people don't really want to like stay here. But like literally the conversation I was having yesterday, where it's just like people be complaining about like Kanye, for example, like he from Chicago, but he hasn't done nothing for Chicago. Like he got all this money and don't do nothing. Well, why are you waiting for somebody to come back and save you? Why don't you save yourself?
Mentality. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you waiting for somebody who's a billionaire that got all this money, that got so much other problems that we don't even know about. When you're in the city yourself, living every day, what are you doing? Instead of waiting for somebody to be your savior, why don't you save somebody else? And so that's just kind of the mentality that I've adopted very recently, like in August, like accepting where I was at and trying to understand, what does God have for me to do here? Because like he has me here for a reason that I've been fighting. And so really the love of the city, there's just so many creatives here. There's so many, like I said, my best friend is Shy Gala when we were 16, and that was one of the kind of places and events that really opened my eyes up to all the creatives. So Shy Gala was an event. It was an event that happened in like 2016 in Chicago, and it was like the first major event that brought together all of the creatives in the city of Chicago. Like Raven Lenae performed there before Raven Lenae was Raven Lenae. Oh. Christopher Kites was selling his chains there before Christopher Kites was Christopher Kites. Like everybody, like Lyrical Lemonade was there before Lyrical Lemonade was Lyrical Lemonade. Like anybody, Queen Key was there when she just dropped Baked as a Pie. Like before everybody was everybody, and we were just trying to figure this out. We were all together. And it was like the first space that everybody was able to really connect and showcase. Like there was fashion shows, there was performances. Like it was just a first space for everybody to kind of showcase their talents. And there's vendors selling things. Like people it was a dress code. People came out dressing to impress. It was literally like a little Met Gala for creatives in Chicago. And my friend did that when he was 16 years old. And we're 23 now. And so that's another event that we're working on. So like catch that in 2023. But that was like a really pertinent and like pivotal event that kind of happened in the city that I felt like really just brought together a lot of creatives. And that's like really just it. Like I love the city, but like a lot of the kids just need exposure.
And
That
guidance.
makes
Yeah.
sense. So one of the things that you are doing in the city is mic'd up studios, which is like crazy. I love that. So I love watching the color studios on like YouTube, watching the videos. One, what was that like coming up with that idea? Or I believe you're a creative director for it, correct?
I do marketing for it, yes. I actually
What
have to
was
do some stuff tonight.
what was that like coming into that space and being like, okay, this is what I do. I see a need, let me fill it.
So actually the guy that I work with, he just started, I remember I was out of town and I saw he did a video like that. And I remember I called him up and I'm like, dude, we need this here. Like this needs to be a thing. And he was like, should we start a whole Instagram? And I'm like, yes, like this needs to be a whole thing. This idea that you just did, we need to keep this going. And it was the need of like colors is inaccessible. Like colors as an aspect, like you have to be to a certain caliber, you have to know a certain, it's not really accessible to like artists that need platforms.
Okay.
You have to have a certain amount of clout, you gotta have a certain amount of blah 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 to even get there. You gotta be
right.
It's a huge platform and there's no other places but colors that's doing it. So it's just like, so for all the other creators that might not even have the money to go there, that doesn't have all that clout, but are extraordinary artists in the city, how do they get that same experience without like feeling the need, like I'm not there yet? And so that was a huge thing with Micah's for me, was just the fact of like, there's artists in Chicago that want that same vibe, but they may not be able to go there. They may not be able to have the exposure and connections to get a big platform like that. And they may not even be that big, but it's the idea of how can we showcase talent in Chicago and really put them on a platform. And so the idea is like, we're not just doing rap, right? Like we're doing Afro beats, we're doing R&B, we're doing all different types of music because Chicago's a very multicultural place. And so we don't want, I think like when people think about Chicago, you just think about like drill music and like Chief Keef and Dirk. And it's like, no, like we have amazing Afrobeats artists that are here because there's a huge Nigerian population here. We have like good R&B. We have all different like K-pop. Like there's all different types of cultures. Like we still have Chinatown. We have Greektown, just like New York. But there's only a certain part of Chicago that's shown. And there's only a certain type of music from Chicago that is kind of elevated. And at this point in time, it's just given like, I feel like Black people are also just tired of hearing like rap all the time. Like we're tired of hearing the same type of stuff about drugs, money, and sex. Like we just want to hear some good beats with some
good music,
something that makes us want to dance, something that makes us want to have a good time. I don't want to hear all this negativity no more. Like stop putting that negativity out there. And those aren't also the main artists, because like that's a form of art, so I don't be negating rap because those are people's experiences, but it's just given there needs to be more room for different musical appreciations.
I enjoy that throughout this entirety of conversation, you are truly a civic-minded person in the sense of in any place that you're in, whether it's business, whether it's volunteer, monetary, academia, you choose to put yourself in a position where you can utilize your gifts to help others. Help others advance in whatever space they're in. I appreciate that because there are very few people who genuinely do things without the interest of like, okay, what can I get out of it? But instead of, okay, there's this need, this is what can be done, this is what I have, let me get involved, let me see how I can help. So I think that on its own will take you a very, very, very long place. I'm rooting for you completely because you are like amazing. Like this is the stuff you're doing is truly just like, I think one of the things, and one of the reasons I really wanted to reach out to you was I appreciate how you share a sense of your like self-discovery journey. You were very open with like, I'm a fluid person and that is in all spaces. And this is how I move and this is what I do. And this is what I like to do. Where kind of what you said up, like you don't try to like fit yourself into like, this is my lane and that's it. you really allow yourself to express yourself in whatever way that looks like and to go with that journey. And I appreciate that as someone who's in my self-discovery phase, and majority of us are, and it's seeing someone else like, okay, like she's liberating herself to do whatever she feels is good, whatever she feels she likes. And that empowers me personally to be like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Why not?
Speaking of which, one thing when we were doing our research on you, I really enjoyed the fact that you did two things. You chose like a new color for the year, and you also chose a theme for each year of your life. I don't know if you always done that or if it kind of started more towards your 20s, but can you talk about that a little bit?
I did. So in 2020, my spiritual journey really started in 2019. So the end of 2019. So when COVID hit, I really doubled down into it. I started including like intermittent fasting. I started meditating every day to the chakras. So when I started learning more about Kemetic practices and Reiki and the importance of colors and even the day of the week that you're born, the day of the week that you're born, and the symbolism in that, I started to really look up the importance of colors, especially because I did candle magic. So I used to do a lot of candle work. And so you had to understand, like, for example, today's an Aries full moon. So I'm going to go get a red candle because red is associated with some of the properties that you're supposed to kind of pull from. So the more I started to get into candle work and started understanding that colors have meanings. So, for example, like right now, it's crazy. Red's on my nails because I wanted to bring in security and stability because those were some things that I was being triggered by. So I was like, I need to wear red because I'm trying to bring in these different type of properties that are associated with that color. And so that's how I started to associate each year with a color. So I started to think about what were properties that I wanted to bring into myself for that new year. So I started that. I did orange like my first year, but I didn't really kind of, know. But then last year I was like, okay, I'm going to be very intentional. I want to do blue because I knew that I want to be more of in a tranquil space and more of an intuition space. There's different types of properties for that phase of my life that I wanted to gain. So I was like, this year is going to be blue.
Mm-hmm.
And this year I wanted to be more in my feminine energy because I was just like, I don't like, and I don't want to be a woman in business that rules through fear or aggression. I want to be a soft leader. I want to be a loving leader. And for so long, I felt like I had more masculine energy than feminine. And I wanted to tap more into that creative energy of femininity, of creativity, of flowing, of intimacy, of awareness and romance and love and appreciation and gratitude. And so this year I was like, okay, I'm gonna do pink. And my favorite color is black. I had never been a girly girl.
Same.
Ever in my life. Have been a tomboy all my life. But I feel like I'm a duality person. Like I can be either extreme. I could be in my masculine, I could be in my feminine, but that's the part of the fluidity as well, is appreciating both. And for so long I didn't appreciate my femininity side because like we're kind of taught that your feminine energy isn't strong. But there's so much strength in femininity. There's so much strength in the flow. There's so much strength in your feminine energy, even as a man too, because everybody has both energies within them. But there's so much energy and so much strength in feminine energy. Like women as a whole change communities. This really starts with the women. So understanding that, I was just like, that's another aspect of stepping into my power. I have to be proud to be a woman and understand what that means and understand the power that women have and femininity has that like society has kind of made us think that we don't because we are women. But like for real, like we all know we run the world. Like everything moves and starts with us. And that's a part of I feel like stepping into your power as well as a woman is understanding where everything stems from is really us. So this year I was just like, that's a part of me stepping in my power is embracing femininity as a strength and not a weakness.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. That's embracing femininity as a strength of a weakness. That's a word.
Shabar.
That definitely is. So I'm curious, what is probably the most profound advice someone has given you?
It's a great question.
Understand which ideas are for you and which ideas are for others.
Elaborate.
You gotta break that down, please.
As a consultant, like especially as a visionary, as someone that gets ideas and visions, some visions God gives me are just for me and for me to execute and for me to follow through on. you have to understand which ideas God is giving you for you and which ideas God is giving you to share with another person. There's some ideas that I know I have no interest in executing and they're not aligned with my passion that are just great ideas for other people. Those are the throwaway ideas. God don't want you to actually execute those. But there are some ideas that God puts on your heart, like, for example, this shoe and the vision that I have for the marketing. There's some ideas that God puts on your heart that's just for you. And you're not supposed to share those. Like there's some things that he gives to you that you're not supposed to share because he wants you to do them.
And
He doesn't want somebody else.
How do you find the discernment to figure out which are for you and which aren't?
I'm still in the process of figuring that out. I have to be honest, I am. I honestly also have to ask God, to be honest, and be like, is this for me?
Got to. Sometimes just
somebody else.
clear. Yeah, just be clear with the question.
Yeah, be very clear, and he gonna answer you. That's the best part. He gonna answer you immediately. So it's like, is it for me or for them? He gonna let you know it's for you or for them. But really, because I have communication with God, like any question that I don't know, it's given. Let me ask him because he know.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go to my friends or whatever about this. I'm gonna ask him to give me a sign, and he gonna give me a sign. I just gotta listen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the last questions I have, because we have a lot of listeners who are, and I just want to say I'm so thankful that, you've graced this platform, because we have a lot of people who really are listening and are figuring out who they are, where they're going in this next phase of their life. That's really who this platform is dedicated to. So like, what are maybe one or two ways that you really, really like navigate your life when it comes to making decisions, or when it comes to figuring out like who Emani is and where Emani is going?
Prayer. And that's the first thing, is talking to God. Like even when my friends come to me and they be like, what do you think? I'll be like, did you ask God first before you came to me? Like, because he knows I really don't know the answer. Like he know what you need to do. You can't ask me what he want for you. You need to ask him what he want for you. And I follow the same thing. Like I'm not gonna ask nobody what they want from me, because a lot of things God tells me to do, it sound crazy when they say it.
Yeah.
It may sound crazy when he say it, but it's because he told me. I won't know what he tell you. I won't know what he tell her. Y'all only know that. And so I always redirect people back to themselves. Redirect them back to God. If you have questions, if you in uncertainty, ask God. Like don't ask anybody else that doesn't even have. That's the thing too, is like God always has your best interest in heart. So I feel like when you ask God, like the answer ain't gonna, it may not be an answer you want, but it's gonna be the answer you need. So it's like I always go to God. And another thing about just handling, like I also am very okay with trying stuff. Like this year, I was making a lot of content this year. Started making content, realized I don't like it. I'm not gonna do it. I can't do it. Do I like it? No. So I just won't do it, but I won't know until I do it. So it's just like trying a lot of stuff. I think that people like be like, oh, I don't want to try this because like, what if I get in it, I don't like it. Drop it.
Yeah.
Like you wasting time. Like you may like it and that's supposed to be what you're supposed to be doing, but you wasting time trying to be like, oh, what if it fails? Like you didn't like it. You don't have to keep doing it. No one tells you have to be in one thing forever. You could do it once and you never have to do it again if you don't like it. If it doesn't resonate with you. I don't like making content. I won't make it as much. It doesn't resonate with me. The process isn't exciting for me. I'm not going to do it. But I know that, oh, I tried out creating videos. I like that. And I feel like that's kind of like how you kind of figure out what you're supposed to do, by just keep trying things out until you kind of figure out, like, follow your heart, really. I would say is the biggest thing, is follow your heart. I remember when I started doing my photo shoots last year and directing them, my mom was like, why are you doing this? What are you doing this for? I don't get it. Like, but whole time I was doing that last year because this year God was going to present me with a opportunity to work with Nike, and I needed to understand how to be able to draft my own campaign and draft a video shoot because I was going to have to do it. I didn't know that last year though, but I was just following what God told me to do because he was just trying to have me gain experience that I would need in a later point. And so when I say just like follow your heart, like it may not make sense to nobody but you. People may be like, why is you doing this? But it's like, if God told you it, it's given, do it. Because you don't know why he's telling you to do it for. And you don't want to miss out on why.
No doubt.
You don't want to miss out on the why of why he has you doing it. So it's just like, listen the first time. If he tells you to do that comic book, if he tells you to write that movie, if he tells you to write that book, do it. Start doing it. Start writing it, because it's a part of like your bigger picture, but you can't tell it now, but he can. And so he knows it. So it's just like, you don't want to live with no regrets. So every idea, you feel me, that he give you, get it out. Don't hold it in. That's how you're gonna figure out your next step, is by, you feel me, just trying.
That's a perfect way to end this episode. Emani, thank you so much
Y'all,
for
this
showing
is
our
great.
audience how they can beat their maze. For the people who want to keep up with you further, where can they find you at on the socials?
Instagram, Mogulmani, 2 underscores. And then also the same thing on TikTok. And yeah, also you'll find my page. I'm about to revamp my page to start showing my portfolio of work for the things that I work on. I'm about to start taking independent consulting clients as well, for just free consulting sessions to starting off always with like giving back first before starting to add price structures. So I'm going to start opening that up soon. So like definitely follow, because I want to make sure I show y'all the projects and also help y'all with yours.
Chase, where can people find you at?
You guys can find me on all social media platforms at Jaysha Robinson, Asia with the J.
You can find me on the socials at Ian A. Barrett, IANABARRETT with an underscore at the end.
And make sure you guys tune in, subscribe, follow Beat the Maze podcast on all the social media platforms. We continue to bring this every Monday at 8 a.m. on the dot. So we look forward to catching you guys next Monday. Bye.
Have a good one.